Formations rabbit hole. Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Hydro. So I was going to grab half an hour today to, hopefully it didn't take half an hour, some time today in my lunch break to answer a question which someone posted, Mate, I think, sorry if I murdered your name just then, put an epic comment up to one of the little videos I popped up last week, and he's basically got some questions about formation and how it all works. So I'm just going to try and run through his questions and see if I can kind of talk them out the way that I'd think through them. So here we go on the whiteboard. And I'm not going to do any silly mirror writing today because I've learned that it didn't matter. Okay, so he says, you say multiple times forwards work together. Questions about this. Does this mean that they should sync their bottom time almost always, or just when receiving a puck? If we have the two forwards on the wall, assuming we're stuck there a little bit without a chance to switch off, should they go up and down together or start to rotate with each other? So basically, if you do have two forwards on the wall, puck has been stuck there for a while, let's say you've got the rest of your back line back here and they're trying to throw passes up, how are they going to work together? So yeah, in a 2-3-1, the way that we play it, you do try to have your forwards work together as much as possible, like a little pair. And if you're playing different formation, you might have a forward and a centre forward here. Then the centre forward would support the forward in the same way. And it doesn't need to be down on the bottom at the same time all the time. But you know, they support each other in the same way that my feet support each other and work as a team when I'm moving around, right? So I could be jumping, in which case they're working together and then they're hitting the ground together and then in the air together, or they could be running or shuffling or jogging or walking, in which case that the important thing there is the cycle, the timing, and how they transfer weight from one to the other, right? So in this case it would be let's say the puck quickly spat out here, both forwards see it at the same time. Maybe this forward was almost on the bottom and this one was on the surface. Straight away this forward jumps onto it, starts swimming with the puck, this forward drops down and starts swimming next to them, and that would be like my feet jumping, right? Yes, they do go together when you have an opportunity like that. But in the same way, maybe the puck pops out but there's an opposition. So you've got your forward like this, the other forward is sort of on the surface like this, just sort of watching. Puck pops out to here, but now you have an opposition player who's right there, and this forward can see it. So this forward would basically be trying to play that puck, would try to look for a way to turn and go, look for a way to push the puck through, maybe would turn, get hit, turn back again. So this forward would be working the puck and trying to create an opportunity while this forward is watching and seeing. And if if this forward is able to turn around and make a pass, then this forward would hit that pass, then this forward would hit the surface. This player would be swimming along knowing that they don't have help with them, and then looking for their outside back or their centre or something after that. Or maybe they basically end up pushing the puck past this player and ending up in a situation where that's the baddie. Maybe this forward ends up managing to push the puck through to turn the baddie around, and now this forward is driving down the wall. Now this baddie is trying to tackle. Now the forward who is out here, our mate forward, needs to come in and hit as well, and that means that once the puck is pushed across, the back turns around, this forward hits and goes, and now that forward hits the surface, and that's their part of the cycle. Just so the transfer of weight from foot to foot when you're running is instead the transfer of the puck possession or sort of engagement on the puck. And like a forward basically needs to have the partner forward there ready to transfer that engagement, to transfer the possession, or to transfer the tackle. Maybe this forward is hounding the back and then makes them turn around, and then they hit the surface. The back moves up to take that place so that the opposition back can't turn back, and then that opposition back's getting hounded by the other forward. You transfer responsibility. You transfer the engagement. But all the time, they basically need to be watching. So if any time this forward has the puck and looks like they're going to get the puck, looks like something's going to happen, looks like they're going to get tackled, looks like they're going to make a pass, that forward is always looking to be the next one engaged if it comes their way, right? If they're looking and they completely cut off by lots of opposition who are just ready and waiting and in the way, and it's never going to make it across, then that forward's going to know that they've probably just got a little bit more time to rest, because that's just going to bounce back, and this forward is going to end up setting up the back behind them, or the centre or something more likely. And then maybe by setting up the back of the centre, then they might be able to sort of move around all this blockade of defenders, or some of that blockade is then going to hit the surface, and someone will be able to shoot a pass through and hit that other forward. But I don't know if that answered that at all. What we forwards work together. Should they go up and down together or start to rotate? Well, a little bit of both is the sort of answer. Once you get really, really fit, it becomes heaps easier, because then if you're in this position and the puck pops to you as a forward and the other forward's on the surface, you don't have to worry about, she was on the surface already and she was already down and did a lot of work. Even though she's down and has done a lot of work, she's still going to be able to swim off and have a forward right next to her, because they're both really fit. If you don't have that level of fitness, then it becomes a lot more about, well, I've been down there, I've been working, I ended up with the puck, now I have to pass it off and I can't be there anymore. Like, we can't double team now because I already did a lot of work and now I'm wrecked and I have to hit the surface, and now it's over to you. So your fitness level of the team is going to depend how much you can really feed into being on the bottom both together, whether you can sort of develop that situation from one person starting the work, or whether you really need to be a bit, it needs to be both of you on the surface, both of you fresh, and then a back putting a big pass, and then both of you dropping at the same time. So yeah, easy way to get around that is just to get really, really fit. Okay, that's the first bit. So the next part of the question, assuming the puck is in the corner, all three positions marked with W, C and G need to occupy at all times. So that would be like that. That's pretty standard for lots of different formations. So if this is like any different formation, you're probably going to have a wall forward, an open forward, centre in the middle, back, goalie, back, or three backs somehow. So what he's saying is that these three all need to be down all the time. I can see that they always manage to have at least two people on the back wall, but who should cover the centre if he's up for air? So basically, the corner and the back wall is a funny sort of animal, because it's sort of it works in little cycles, and it basically goes all or none. So if you are one of these people, one of these two, and maybe if you're this person in here, you're basically sitting up in the middle, and anything that looks like it's going to go through like that, or if it pops back there and then looks like it's going to come through, then you're going to hit the bottom. But if the puck doesn't look like it's going to go through there, you're going to be on the surface as much as possible. Otherwise you're just going to be wasting your air, right? So that's the first thing. Never be on the bottom unless you have to be. For this person here, whether it's just the goalie, the fullback, or just the next person in the rotation, like this goalie could have moved through and that winger could have come back, and it's just the next person in. So we've got one person in there. That next person in, you're basically you're looking to see what position your teammate is in. Are they in a strong position? Crucially, are they between the puck and the goal? If they are between the puck and the goal, that's a good first step. Are they in a strong position? Are they in some kind of crazy hooked position where they're sort of super, super weak, and anyone who sort of pops the puck, if they're if the puck's there and here's their stick, and they're kind of like this with their body and holding it like that, and any opposition who comes in and just pops the puck onto the other side then has got nothing to stop them, and this person is off balance. Have they got some crazy body position going on like that, or are they super locked? Are they got, you know, puck there, they've got stick, they've got their shoulder on the wall, they're flat, they're strong? Like, is the opposition going to have to come through the stick and then their whole body to make any progress? You know, what kind of body position do they have? If they're good, then you basically are looking at what are the opposition doing. If the opposition just have one player who's sort of come up here and he's basically just not letting you have nice clean possession, he's just trying to spoil it for you so that you don't have a break, and he's just kind of trying to get, sorry, I always say he, but obviously that's just because of what I'm used to. They've got a puck on the stick, they're just trying to sort of spoil, but everyone else in their team is sort of just having a bit of a rest and watching them. Then this person does not need to be on the bottom. They do not need to be on the bottom. You can give this player a good few seconds, and then you can go down, you come down, maybe you give them a pinch on the calf or something, or you just move through as they come up and you take their position or something, and wait until someone's got all the energy to actually go and dig it in and go. But if you're this person monitoring, and suddenly, say the back, sometimes the goalie, I used to do this all the time as goalie, I used to love it, say their centre, say 3 people just suddenly shoot in there super aggressively, like, oh, we're going to push this, we're just going to go ape, like maybe there's only half a minute to go in the half or something, and they suddenly pile in there, and there's only one of your defenders there. Suddenly you're going to need that defender to stay there. This person is going to need to take quick, really strong body position and get down there. Maybe the centres might need to be there as well, and probably this last person on the goal would take body position on the bottom as well. So it's like an all or nothing. Like, as soon as someone decides to make a big push, the defenders all have to get in position and have this big defensive push as well. So the number of people that you have on the bottom and the number of people who need to be on the bottom goes up and down in waves. So you'd go from, you know, if we had these, that's what we had, wasn't it? If there's only one guy there pushing, not in great attacking position, then you only really need that one person there for a while, right? But as soon as either lots of people start to come in, or if the puck is popped past that person suddenly up the back wall, and it's starting to develop enough space here for someone to get in there, push off the back wall, and then generate momentum, immediately it goes behind this person. It's like danger stations, and straight away that person needs to be in, that person needs to be ready, and that person needs to be hitting the bottom. So it's sort of like a couple of people down, and then you have this sort of frenzy and everyone hits the bottom. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is about rotation cycles and then reading the play ahead of when it's going to happen, right? And yeah, I used to love being this person here. So you'd be watching the corner. So you'd have the defenders, and I'd have the guys like that. Sorry, I keep on redrawing the same thing. Defenders would just be set up like this. You might have, maybe there's a break, it got pushed into the corner, and we ended up with like one forward who was ended up battling there, not really doing much use, not really doing much good, but everyone else is sort of like, oh, whew, it's just gone into the corner, we'll take a breather. But when you're this guy here, you can have a really good view of all this, and you can basically just sort of see, okay, looks like everyone's trying to take a breather, and I used to just try and shoot in there, come in behind the forward, pop him out of the way, sort of lever your stick in there without hitting anyone's glove, and then basically just trying to force a quick little bit of space, and then push off the back wall and just jam up and take people by surprise basically before they're ready for it. That's a really good, you know, I mean, it's not everyone's jam trying to go up the back wall, but you know, sometimes it works. Sometimes you catch people off guard. If the subs bench is over here especially, and you can kind of see, oh, the play just got forced over here, it was going in the middle for a while with no calls, everyone's a bit wrecked, suddenly you know that there's a chance that these open guys could sort of be looking at the subs bench and going, oh, is it safe to go, is it safe to go? And if they do go, and you can make something happening really quickly, then you can get lucky and score a goal. Yep, the team that I've been in scored a goal in a World Championships final doing that, catching the opposition, subbing at the right time. So yeah, you can. And sometimes, I mean, I like getting in like that. Sometimes some people hate it, but I like doing that. So I understand it when people do. Next one, what kind of play style would you expect from your centre in a usual New Zealand 2-3-1? Should the centre generally be part of a whole pull wide switch? We used to involve the centre in most of the switches a couple of years ago, but nowadays, especially if it's deeper, as our centre I usually just stay in the pocket a little bit ahead of the puck facing our own goal. Who should initiate a switch in an ideal case? Yeah, I don't know about that. I guess it just depends on, depends on what I'd just say, depends on what you like, for sure. You can, yeah, I mean, basically just saying, for us, we kind of got, never used to be this way. When I grew up, it was just you'd go around the backs, which meant you'd go like this. But recently, people have sort of started to do either like a shallow or a lateral switch like this, or a deep switch. And then sometimes you can kind of, if you can switch through the centre, and that's not just in 2-3-1, but in other formations as well. You basically switch through the midfield or through the centre. You go half back, centre, half back. Or you can do a deep switch, deep wide, some people like to call it, and using the goalie when that person drops back for it. Yeah, and you can do either. It depends on what kind of game it is as well. So if you have a game where there's lots and lots of traffic in the middle, heaps of traffic in the middle, opposition's putting lots of pressure on, that is the ideal time to switch, because it means that that's where they're focused, and if you get around them, you get your opportunity. Yeah, a lot of the times if you can position yourself early as the centre, sometimes you can chuck that pass behind them, and that will means it gives them a little bit of protection as they turn. We sort of used to do that with the goalie as well. Yeah, that's something you can try. Sometimes it won't work because you might have all this pressure coming, but you could also have forwards ready to back tackle, and then if you throw that puck behind the centre, that could actually be playing into what the opposition is doing as well. So it's not. It really all depends on the game, depends on who you're playing, depends on how you're wanting to play it. I guess that's a cop out of an answer, isn't it? Sorry, but yeah, you can do it a bunch of different ways, and if you're comfortable with sitting a little bit higher, which is what Mate says he's doing, you're comfortable sitting higher so that when the puck pops out backwards, then you can kind of turn and go, then you can totally do that. But all you're giving up is you're giving up the opportunity to, if you sit deeper, you're basically giving up your view and the option to sort of, as the puck comes, you can decide to send it on or to cut inside and then break and feed your forwards as well. So that's, there's pros and cons to everything. Yeah, and for the New Zealand centres, some like to sit high, some like to sit a little. We have some centres who like to sit real close in, if that's the winger. We have some who like to sit closer. We have some who like to sit quite wide and have a nice view of everything and then sort of move in. And then we have some who sort of sit higher, some who sit deeper, like a bit more like a fullback. I mean, it's like everything else. What flavour jam do you like? So hopefully that answered that one. So it's about switches. Who should initiate a switch in an ideal case? That's a good question. Mostly we normally leave it up to the back on that side, our winger. We can call him a back. Normally it's the back. Yeah, we've had little plans in some teams where it's been the forward initiates a switch by forward throwing it out of the attacking corner to try and initiate something if they can see when the opportunity's there, but normally you'd say it was normally the back, or say the fullback or the goalie has gone in to do that job, and then that back has come out into that position. The goalie can turn around, throw it out, and then the back can, but in this case that goalie is moving in, is basically like the acting back, right? So it's still kind of the back who does it. The person who's doing the role of the back is initiating that switch, or the straight switch across. And that's all just a matter of firstly keeping your eyes open and thinking about the fact that you do have options, because it's so easy just to get sort of tunnel vision with what's in front of you, and that's the thing that most younger players have the most difficulty with, because it's keeping their game plan in their head at the same time as all the pressure's on, especially if it's on the wall. Like Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, kind of thing. And on the wall, that's kind of, you're getting punched in the face the whole time, really, if you got the puck. All right, that's initiating switch. How much freedom would you say the players have? We played around with the centre or the goalie decides the directions and everyone else follows, but that might limit the team's game a bit. Could do. Although it makes it more predictable for your team, I guess. Yeah, and that's pros and cons about that. Yeah, and it depends on what team you have as to how much freedom people have got, really. It's nice to say to everyone, hey, do what you want. If you see an opportunity, go with that opportunity, and everyone else try to support you. I quite like that approach. But sometimes you can kind of try and restrict something. Often what people do is that they might say, yeah, hey, we've got options here, here, and here, do whatever you want, here, here, and here, but they just try and block off areas of the pool where you don't want to be making those decisions. So they'll say, hey, you can make all these, have all these goes to go out into the middle out here, yep, sure. Take all the opportunities out into the middle for anyone to try and sort of head into the middle, and you're generally sort of going like this into the goal. But then they're saying if you're down here, then you don't take those opportunities into the middle. You're just being really, really conservative and just keeping it on the wall or the channel until we get into this zone where you can start to make those decisions. And this kind of zone thing normally includes either trying to avoid these corner areas and trying to sort of stay in the middle, or marking out these corner areas as a good target to get into to then put sustained pressure on, or maybe a bit of both. So yeah, who makes the decisions is really about your team and how experienced people are and how comfortable people are at making decisions. I have played with a couple of teams who've done the someone decides, so everyone's sort of, so if you're on the wall, you're playing here, everyone's basically just going up the wall channel, or something that you decide which is your sort of default setting, or it could be like you're trying to run angles, and then one particular player, maybe it's the centre forward or something. I've played in teams where it's been the centre forward. If they get the puck and try and start to go in a different direction, then everyone kind of goes, oh, okay, and then they try and do like a switch or a deep wide, or try to do something different, or go straight to the wall or whatever. They basically follow the lead of that person. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, I haven't done that much of that, but it seems like a good system, and it can work. It is good to be predictable for your own team. I'll totally agree with that. Yeah. So the last part of the question here is, can you give us a general idea on how deep do you guys plan with strategy and tactics? I'm assuming that when you say you guys, you kind of mean the New Zealand teams in general, maybe, or maybe the more organised New Zealand teams, which would be the world's teams. How deep do you plan with strategy and tactics? You can plan rotations and what we do during the advantage pucks, or where to aim when we're in a given part of the playing field, but can you reliably plan more? Like, for example, always having a trigger on when to switch off the wall, for example, always in the second phase of the strong side wing, something like that. Or 2 whole width switch, then break into the middle of the third one, or things like that. Yep. And he's saying that they're having trouble executing anything but the simplest things, and with not bad players. So yeah, I feel where you are. He's got a feeling it's hard to do these things in our sport, but maybe it's just not enough faith and practice. Yep, you're right on all counts. So it is tough to do that kind of stuff. It is really tough to do that kind of stuff, which is sort of, I'd call very planned strategy, and kind of the Mike Tyson thing plays into it, because it's just very hard to, plus we're underwater as well. Other teams or other sports, they're running around on a grass pitch or something, they're throwing balls at each other's heads or something, and you can kind of talk to each other for one thing. So you can kind of, in rugby, someone's lying in a ruck and you can have the halfback pulling the ball out, and then the back line could be chatting to each other and planning what they're doing next, or at least yelling it to each other. A lot of sports you can do that, but in hockey you can't, because you're busy drowning and your body's busy kind of going, hey, we need to breathe, what are you doing? Trying to override all your thoughts with just get to the water, get to the air and breathe, while you're busy going, shut up, I'm trying to focus here, I've got a team plan, what is it again? I'm drowning. So yeah, it is really difficult with our sport, but you can reliably plan more. It takes a lot of discipline, and a lot of practice, and probably a bit of experience. Not necessarily experience as in playing, like you don't need everyone to be very old and have played the game for a long time. But if you're going to try to be quite, I don't want to say complicated, but if you want to try to be quite specific in the things that you want to do in the game, then it helps if the team that you're playing with has a lot of experience with trying to play in a specific way. Yeah, exactly that. So you might have young players, but if they've got 3 or 4 years of the time that they've spent playing has been playing with a team which is trying to play to specific game plans like that, then it's going to really help you. And also you got to practice the way that you're going to play. So it's very important to plan your practices, try and practice everything. If you want to do something in the game, you've got to figure out a way to practice it, and practice it in a realistic way when you're going to be under the same pressure when you're practicing as you're going to experience in the game. And that can be quite hard to set up just with getting enough numbers for it sometimes with smaller clubs, and just figuring out smart ways to do it where you can get everyone to go through the practice simulation a bunch of times while keeping it realistic. Yeah, so I guess my answer to this last part is, yeah, I think you can plan more. It is difficult. You do have to put a lot of time and effort into it. The good part is that it's really fun once you got it. Once you do have some things like that sussed out, it can be pretty enjoyable to actually manage to pull off something like that. And it's a lot easier to do it off things like set plays, things like advantage pucks like you already have here. One can plan rotations, what we do during advantage pucks, or that kind of thing. Yeah, practice it off advantage pucks, try and do those things off advantage pucks, and that can work its way into the rest of your game. And then the easiest things to do for other stuff is what you're doing in corners, because then the game sort of half pauses and you have enough time for people to go, oh, okay, we're in the corner, we've got a plan for this, and then you run through whatever you've planned. Working with phases and stuff is pretty much, I've found it tricky. It's pretty tricky, like always in the second phase, the second time someone hits the bottom, that person, not everyone in the team can always see that person and what they're doing, or is going to be, you need everyone in the team, all 6 in the water to be knowing what's going on and ready to go. And it's quite hard when you can't track exactly who's who. That can be a bit of a tricky one to track, so that can be a bit difficult. But you could mix up the thing that you're suggesting at the top with someone doing a switch, someone in particular signaling a switch. Well, you could do that with some other kind of smarty pants play as well. And I just say try and keep it as simple as possible. Like, there's a lot of power in having everyone know what's happening in your team and everyone trying to execute the same thing at the same time. But the simpler it is, the more powerful it's going to be, because the less stuff there is going to be going wrong, right? So yeah, do it, keep it simple. If you can start pulling something off, I'd love to see it. Send me a video. I'll be stoked to see what you're doing. And just have a bit of faith in what you're trying to do, and just lots of practice, I reckon. And that's about it. I've talked for long enough. Oh, that's massive. Anyone who got to the end of this, you are a total underwater hockey nerd. Good on you, just like me. And I hope that's given you something to think about. Happy to answer questions like this on my lunchtime. It's been a long time since we've had any of this stuff going on, so my brain is basically bubbling over with it. Okay, cheers.